Hey there, crypto friends. Thank you guys so much for joining me. Today, we're talking about the NFT's road to fame. My name is Shay Newkirk. I go by Crypto Stash, or my friends just call me Stash. I'm a content creator here in the cryptocurrency space. And I also work on a couple of my own blockchain projects as well, but definitely known for doing educational pieces and videos through my YouTube channel. And I'm happy to have a couple of really amazing guests here today with me. So I have Devin Finzer, I have Jordan Lyall, and Robert Norton, who are all going to give us some different perspectives today on their views on the NFT world, non-fungible tokens, and what the future looks like. So thank you so much, gentlemen, for joining me. And let's just get into this. Why don't we have a little bit of introductions from yourselves, and then we'll go and jump into some questions. Why don't you go ahead and start with this, Devin?
Sure. So my name is Devin Finzer. I'm a co-founder of OpenSea, which is a marketplace for non-fungible tokens or NFTs. We started back in 2017, right after CryptoKitties launched, building this sort of more generic marketplace for all these new projects that were coming online. So anything from items inside of blockchain games to digital art to collectibles to blockchain-based domain names, and the list of things that are being tokenized into NFTs is growing every day. And it's an exciting spot to be where we get to kind of see all the different projects come in.
Yeah, thank you so much, Devin. What about you, Jordan? Can you give us a little bit about your background, who you are, what you do?
Yeah. Hey guys, I'm Jordan Lyall. I'm with Consensus, but then also separately, I am kind of the ringleader for the MEME team. The MEME project just kind of spun out or kicked off the last couple of months, mid-August. So we're not even two months in yet, but it's kind of merged together both DeFi and NFTs and created something entirely new. And it's NFT staking or NFT mining. So it's really exciting to be at the intersection of two amazing communities. It's a decentralized community, given my kind of spot and space in this ecosystem. As a DeFi product lead, I've kind of led the charge here, kind of the face of the MEME project, and we're doing a bunch of cool stuff within DeFi and NFTs. So I'm really excited to be here and talk as someone from like the DeFi background, getting into the NFT world.
Yeah, I like that ringleader.
I'm trying to find a good name. It's can't say founder. You can't really say
Right.
CEO. So I like ringleader.
That's perfect. Okay, Robert, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself and your company, Verisart?
Sure, I'm the founder and CEO of Verisart. We are a blockchain certification platform that started in 2015. When we started, there was really only the Bitcoin blockchain as a use case for us to build on. Since then, we've made some good headway working with artists and galleries and auction houses online. We've had the fortune to work with artists such as Ai Weiwei and Shepard Fairey, and companies such as eBay. My background prior to Verisart was I was the founder CEO of Sedition Art, which is one of the largest digital marketplaces at the time for distributing art by well-known artists in digital format. Since been eclipsed in volume by some of the NFT platforms out there. And prior to Sedition Art, I was founder CEO of Saatchi Art, which is one of the largest marketplaces on the internet for artists to sell work direct to consumer. I started at AOL in the mid-90s, so most of my career has been in consumer-facing internet space. I'm delighted to be here and looking forward to kind of sharing my thoughts about how artists always do respond to new technologies and find new communities to connect with. And I think we're at a really white hot stage of that in the NFT space currently.
Okay. Yeah, thank you so much, guys, for a little quick introduction there. So now we have kind of everyone out there knows who's on the panel here and where you guys' backgrounds are. Definitely a wide variety here, and I like that. I like being able to have a little bit of a different look and perspective on this up and coming scene. A scene that's been around for a while, But it's funny that, you know, just now a lot of people are starting to get into it. They're like, oh, well, you know, this is, oh, look, this hot new thing, NFTs. But, you know, the concept and the usage has been around for quite some time. And so, you know, when we look at what the most interesting use case is for NFTs, what do you guys think that is right now? Why don't you start with that, Robert? And you can kind of, you know, come from a background of you know, art and how, you know, your platform uses blockchain in general to secure provenance, right? You know, for artists.
Yeah, I mean, I think if you look at the kind of NFT landscape, I have to say, I mean, Devin's NFT Bible I read prior to this this meeting, and I think it outlines, you know, pretty well some of the different kind of like main use cases out there. And, you know, obviously, you know, art is one that people focus on, but, you know, domain names, the kind of ENS server is another area, and virtual worlds is another area. I think that from what I'm seeing, just as a sort of an entrepreneur, you know, sort of on the sidelines really of this industry at this stage, is the success of some of the kind of applications of NFTs into what are already well understood gaming mechanisms, such as, you know, trading and collecting football cards. You know, I think Sorare is a good example. I think, you know, Axie, I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing that right, but, you know, the kind of, in a way, the successor of kind of CryptoKitties in terms of, you know, this idea of breedable, collectible, kind of fun, kind of game mechanics of you know, digital items, I think is also a really good example of NFTs at this stage.
Yeah, I definitely agree with you on the having an NFT with a use case. Tell us a little about the NFT Bible there, Devin, and what you think is the most interesting use case right now for NFTs. And is it in the Bible? Did you put it all in there?
Sure. Yeah. Well, I actually think one kind of interesting lens here is, and I guess we kind of talk about that in the Bible blog post, but is actually that, you know, come to think about it, I think actually what's interesting is if you look at the NFT space, it's pretty diverse in terms of what's catching on. It's not, you know, there is, you could point to art and you could say that that's kind of the leader, maybe in terms of volume technically, but, you know, it's hard to say how much of that volume is kind of real versus just people trading stuff around initially. And so what I would actually say is that, yeah, it's really like taken off in kind of a number of different areas, right? The ones that Robert mentioned, digital art, these sort of collectible trading cards, these game items, these domain names, you know, even people selling advertising space using NFTs. So I would actually say the biggest theme of NFTs is just how general purpose they are, and how, you know, maybe it's not sort of a scenario where there's like one killer app that you know is the main use case, but rather just like a lot of kind of use cases that come along over time. You know, could be that maybe that's not what happens, and art sort of takes off and kind of surpasses all the other use cases. But at least what we're seeing right now, you know, based on kind of volume and trading behavior, is that just all of these use cases are turning out to be pretty interesting. Yeah.
Good point. Yeah, I mean, it's diversity is a pretty big factor. You know, I think in cryptocurrency, it's one of the strong mainstays. You know, iteration and diversity. What do you think, Jordan? What's the most interesting use right now? Is it pineapples and memes?
Sure. Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah. At the risk of like shilling my own project, where I find the most interest for me personally, coming from a DeFi background, is that when we can like jam together these two tools or protocols or communities, really. So yeah, again, at the where we're at MEME, right? We issued a few different pools over the last few months, and it started with collectibles, right? You can see one behind me here. We kind of cartoonized some celebrities within crypto, put them on an NFT, almost like trading cards, and started putting those up. So anybody can go stake your meme tokens over time, earn some pineapples, and then redeem those for NFTs. So it starts with collectibles, and then we did a kind of a artist series where we worked with this artist Sven here in LA, and he did almost like fine art, so it's digital art. So you go from collectibles to fine art, kind of similar path that we're talking about here. And then we did a project that's pretty close to everybody here, and that's the LA Blockchain Summit. So we partnered with the LA Blockchain Summit, and we did something unique where it's a brand new pool, and you're locking up assets to earn NFTs. And this is a little bit more promotional, right? It's not necessarily fine art, but these NFTs now, rather than just looking cool or simply being able to buy and sell these things, they actually provided an extra level of utility. So I see this ability to, like, these are keys, or these are concert tickets, or these are, you know, whatever. These can unlock lots of different experiences. In the case of LA Blockchain Summit, many users use this NFT, which had your face on it, Shay, I think my on it. It rotated through a bunch of faces.
Yeah.
But anyways, like, this NFT was then used to join a brand new exclusive permissioned VIP Telegram group. You could only enter it if you had the NFT. There was a bot that checked your wallet to make sure you had an NFT in your wallet. And that's really just scratching the surface, right? A few other more rare items in this pool included the ability to unlock a special Zoom call or a special one-on-one Zoom call with Alon. And again, this is just like, we're at the experimentation level, and it's really exciting to get in there, and it's untapped. I mean, to me, that's exciting. There's a lot of excitement going on. We already mentioned all the use cases with collectibles and digital arts and game items. The list goes on, but as a guy with a background in DeFi, it's pretty cool to see, like, these communities kind of come together, and mechanics of DeFi applied to NFTs, and it's fun.
Yeah, I agree. So, you know, in general, I tend to agree with all three of you guys making good points there. You know, I think utility is a pretty big thing when it comes to NFTs, and, you know, experimenting with you know, what can we do to give these things more utility outside of them just being, you know, a trading card or just being, you know, a piece of art. And so, you know, having something tied into it, whether it's a real world thing or a digital thing that just gives you more utility, is actually a pretty interesting concept. Now, that's a concept that all of us here in, you know, crypto land are very familiar with and we're excited about. But, you know, while NFTs have kind of garnered more attention in the greater crypto space, how do we get, you know, blockchain noobs, people who don't understand anything about blockchain or about NFTs, how do we get them interested and excited about this? You want to start with that, Devin?
Sure. Yeah. Well, I mean, I think, yeah, it's interesting to think about, right? Like when DeFi was as we saw DeFi kind of take off, it really spread virally, and the theme was this theme of yield, right? Like that you could sort of make money on your cryptocurrency through these various protocols. And I do think that those types of incentives, and you know, this is another reason why MEME is such an interesting project, are extremely powerful, and perhaps even more powerful than like trying to grease the, you know, I mean, obviously there's lots of little things we can do to improve the user experience and onboard for regular folks, better wallets, you know, faster transaction times, just better user experiences, all of those things. But at the end of the day, probably a large portion of it is going to come down to, number one, utility of the NFT. So is it something that I actually want to buy to use in some capacity? And then number two, sort of clever incentive systems, kind of like what we saw with DeFi, where there was sort of this yield farming idea that that really like took DeFi to the next level, and when applied to NFTs in some ways kind of took it a step function up. So I would say, yeah, probably the combination of those two pieces, which are kind of happening all over the place in both the collectible art and also in the gaming space, and all these things will probably kind of come to fruition. And I guess the third ingredient is just like the sort of low-hanging fruit, onboarding tech improvements. But all three of them, I think, will be important.
I mean,
no,
I
that's
think,
a good point.
You
Yeah.
know,
Go ahead,
sorry,
Robert.
go ahead. Well, no, I just think that, you know, again, like just from seeing the space, I think that if you're going to bring a broader market to this space, I think one of the things that one's going to have to sort of drop is just the use of acronyms the whole time. And we, you know, we had ICOs, we've got DeFi now, we have NFTs, and we sort of like define a category by an acronym, which isn't really helpful.
Yeah.
I mean, if you look at the most successful smart contract game, effectively it's kind of CryptoKitties in terms of volume, either sales of the items or sort of value of the thing. And what was amazing when that came out was if you read the CryptoKitties white paper, there was like nothing like any white paper you'd read at the time. It was kind of like very, very short, hardly any technical information in it, and just pretty straight up. And so I think not sort of confusing people by what's under the hood, getting that product market fit right is super important. And I think that some companies that in terms of their interface is Nifty Gateway, Makerspace as well, nice and kind of clean. And I think if you're going to get more people to come in, you want to sort of lower those kind of technical barriers as much as possible. I think the artists will continue to find and create great tech, regardless of like what the platforms are. I mean, reminded of the fact that we're looking at sort of digital art, really, which is being taken to market through a sort of NFT structure. But there's AI art with kind of GANs. We've seen digital art in other forms before. We've seen video art. We've had, we're living in the kind of the shadow, really, of the sort of what the video artists like Nam June Pak were doing in the 60s. And back then they were saying, the cathode ray tube will replace the canvas. And now we might be saying, well, the meme might replace the canvas. I mean, at the end of the day, artists are going to connect with their audiences using the tools of their time. But my own opinion is that one has to kind of think about, why people collect art. And NFTs does tick a lot of boxes, right? People collect art because they like it. There's an aesthetic interest, potentially because it's a good investment, and there's maybe a social bragging right. And all of these things are instantly delivered through an NFT. You have the autonomy. But the one thing that, isn't delivered is the physicality of an experience. And we as kind of humans are still largely value owning physical items. Now, that's not to say that artists aren't producing great stuff in digital format. They are. But we should also kind of remind ourselves that the most valuable NFT, I believe, that's being sold to date, and I may be corrected on this, is the lot that sold at Christie's today, which is a Robert Alice project for $131,000. And that was part of a physical work. So I think as we sort of look forward to how this market might broaden out, I think to forget of the physical world when it comes particularly to the notion of art and collecting would, I think, kind of would reduce the scope for really broad market support.
Yeah. No, I definitely agree with you on the facts of accessibility, knowing what your target market is, understanding, why they want to get into something and making it super simple for them to do so with incentivization. What do you think about that, Jordan? How do we get noobs, getting into NFTs? Do we obfuscate things? Do we totally make it something, base level where we don't have to do technical stuff?
I think we're getting there. And the UX always improves with every new project and every new release. So again, my background is DeFi, building DeFi products with Consensus for the last year and a half, and even before that, with my time at Total. And kind of the thread throughout my career, 3+ years on building on Ethereum, has been, okay, right now we're solving problems for existing users of DeFi and Ethereum. However, looking ahead a decade or two, right, the goal is to make this whole thing a little bit more usable, a little bit more approachable for the masses. So I kind of see that, even though the MEME project kind of had this unique creation event, it's still something that is in the back of my mind with every new project or every new release that we make at the MEME team. And that's, we are slowly building bridges that one day millions and millions of people will use these bridges to onboard into Web3 or DeFi or whatever you want to call it, Ethereum. So I see NFTs as being kind of the pavement that will one day bring on mass adoption of DeFi. So we're lining roads with NFTs. And a number of reasons I see that. Number one is because everyone gets what collectibles are, right? Everyone gets what like digital exclusivity makes sense to people. but there is some other things that we can do just with the tech, like moving past art, like you mentioned, obfuscating complexity. And one of those cool things that we've seen lately is with several experiments, including people who were in and around the Wi-Fi team, the Yearn team, they wrapped smart contract cover insurance in an NFT. And that removes a lot of the complexity. I don't have to go over here and buy insurance and do this and do that. I just own this NFT. It represents smart contract cover. If that smart contract breaks, I can go redeem it. We're starting to see things too as we're at this intersection of DeFi and NFTs. One of our pools requires a user to go put liquidity on Uniswap, right? Put MEME and then an equal amount of Ethereum, deposit to Uniswap. In return, they get this LP token, which is like a receipt, which represents your share of liquidity in that pool. Come back to our site, deposit this LP token, and that works fine for us DeFi degens, right?
Yeah.
It works fine for the yield farmers. But if we want to get new people in the space, if we want to tap into the other half of our audience, which is NFT folks, collectors, we need to make that experience better. So, you know, just one simple idea would be like, could we wrap LP tokens or a share of liquidity in an NFT? And then now the art becomes, maybe it references the percentage of the pool that
your LP tokens in there. Yeah.
So I think it's just gonna help kind of smooth out the experience overall in the future.
Yeah. No, I think that's right. I think we're heading towards there, like you were saying. Every iteration of these things, we start to see a better user experience. Things are a little bit easier. You know, we're still at a point where, you know, even people in crypto have trouble using crypto products. You know, providing liquidity, using Uniswap. You know, that's why I do a lot of tutorials and stuff like that on my channel. You know, because I get those requests from people who are in my NFT community. They're mostly people who just love collecting things. They're gamers. And they're not necessarily DeFi degens, unfortunately. And so, you know, it is one of those difficult things to navigate. And, you know, but the good thing about it is, like you were saying, is that, you know, there's a lot of people already in general who are comfortable with digital assets. Now, not necessarily NFT-backed ones or blockchain-backed ones, but, you know, a Fortnite skin or a CSGO, you know, skin. That goes across the board. So people are becoming more okay with, you know, the idea of digital scarcity, of owning an item that is digitally rare and has a value attached to it. But you're right, it's all about user interface and finding the best way to onboard those people where it's not something that is going to be difficult for them. They can just jump in, boom, they have an app to do it, and it's all set up for them right out the gate. Now, when we look forward to, you know, what's going on here in the NFT space, you know, obviously in cryptocurrency, interoperability is a really big hurdle that we're facing here. And so, you know, when it comes to NFTs, right now we have these kind of closed off ecosystems that aren't connected very well. You know, and you know, to get to that point of interoperability, you know, we kind of need somewhat of a universal standard, right? Something like when you look at HTTP or TCP/IP or DNS or USB, these are all standards, you know, that help to move industries forward, where all these different makers are using this standard so they can, you know, have a really great consumer experience. What do you guys feel is going to be the kind of springboard for that? And do we need to have a universal standard, or can each ecosystem survive by themselves? Why don't you start with that, Jordan?
Yeah, I mean, we're firmly planted on Ethereum right now for obvious reasons. As an ETH head, it feels weird talking about like different chains or different, you know.
You can do it.
We can do it. It's totally open. We're having those conversations with various blockchains. I think ultimately, it doesn't really matter. I think it's at least for the collectors that I've talked to, it doesn't matter if it's on Flow or on ETH mainnet or on Solana or whatever it is. Mm-hmm. They're just in it for the art, and yeah, there are going to be some differences: speed, reliability, security, and ultimately those things will matter. But those of us that are like deeply invested in Ethereum kind of want to see that happen on ETH2 or potentially some layer 2 solution. But right now it's really early, especially for us, and we're open to possibility of figuring out other solutions, but we're kind of taking this wait and see approach.
Yeah. Okay. What do you think, Robert? Do you think that we need a kind of one standard to rule them all, or are we going to be okay with multiple standards across different blockchains and not as much interoperability?
I think it's clear that, you know, when you have standards, you have a broader adoption. I mean, that's kind of the history of technology can be summed up in that. And so, look, I think that we're in a still early phase of the sort of blockchain community. There are a lot of silos. I've seen it up firsthand, you know, watching kind of the Ethereum community develop. And, you know, I think that one has to kind of weigh these two aspects between, you know, community that wants self-sovereignty, that wants autonomy, that wants to kind of, you know, trust in the code. And, you know, that is what enables this kind of provable scarcity model, which, you know, people really value. But at the same time, often the value of the experience is in the context, right? So think about your example of, you know, Epic and kind of Fortnite and what they're making. I'm thinking about my time at King.com before doing Search Online, and, you know, the context of Candy Crush and what the digital kind of goods that we were able to kind of sell through that platform. And I think that, you know, actually the value from a consumer point of view might be less in the actual ownership of the items. There will be some kind of traders that see value in that, but perhaps more in the context of how those items are experienced within the game or within the world or within a community. And I think, you know, largely the digital collectibles are still defined primarily through a digital context of value, whether that be a game or a world or some other thing. And so I would think that there's a huge opportunity to provide that digital context, and that may be kind of a little less restricted to one particular technological smart contract over another.
Right. Yeah, no, it's a great point. No, I definitely agree with you there. What do you think, Devin?
I agree with what has been said. I think the only thing I would add is, I mean, I'm personally excited to see new chains kind of come online and push the boundaries of what's possible with NFTs and kind of widen the design space. I think it's been particularly challenging to have like super high throughput games on Ethereum, for example. Like that use case, people really tried to do that early on. But it got pretty stifled by the technical limitations, gas prices, things like that. So I think, you know, I think some of these experiments, even if they're just sort of EVM side chains or just other environments where, you know, gas prices aren't as high because there's just not as much DeFi activity on the network. I think we're already starting to see those sorts of chains gain interest and adoption. So yeah, I think it'll all kind of happen. It might be messy for a while, but it'll be interesting to see.
No, I totally agree with you. And, you know, just to wrap up here with things, you know, we've had a great conversation, but real quick, what is your favorite NFT that you hold, that you own, that is not one of your projects? Go, Devin. Favorite NFT, the one you love, that you own, that you can't get
well,
live without.
I like okay, I'll go with my, I have some OpenSea soccer jerseys in Decentraland that you can wear for our Decentraland soccer match.
What do you think, Jordan? What's your favorite?
I just got some F1 Delta time. This is the from the Animoco people.
Oh, and, very cool.
I bought a crate and have a car and I have a driver and a helmet, and it's really fun.
Very cool. What about you, Robert? Do you hold any NFTs or just like
I do? I have one of the artists that actually uses our platform Verisart to certify his work, and the Nifty gateway to sell his work is Lucio Paletti. He's a Bitcoin artist.
Oh yeah, one of my friends.
He's one of oh great. Well, you have one of his.
Very cool. Yeah, personally, like one of my favorites is my Engine MFT. It was a token that you had to get early on as a supporter of Engine, and then they locked it to everyone's wallet, so you can't trade it, but it gives you airdrops every once in a while of like different NFTs for their platform. So, okay, once again, thank you guys so much for being here with me today, talking about NFTs and their rise to fame. I think that's all we have for today, folks. Until next time, stash that crypto, friends.